Shakka Ahmose was tripping. Bling, 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 bling. My little impression of the.
Wow, that's how we starting it. That's how we starting.
Woo! That was my Alfredo BK apologist impression right quick. What's going on, y'all, man? What up, man? What's happening? Y'all know what it is. It's your hometown hero, the real Adam Coleman. And I got some guests in the building, man. We're gonna have some fun tonight, man. We're gonna have some fun. I got my man BK apologist and my dude MJ Jackson in the building. How y'all doing, man? How y'all feeling, man?
Doing good, man. We're doing good.
Trying to survive the heat down here, but doing good. Been looking forward to this.
Man, yep, man. I tell you what, man, y'all got some end of days type heat where y'all at, bro. it's like yo, it's crazy right now.
Then you add that delta going on.
Yeah, man.
And that lambda.
Mm-hmm. Hey, man, you be proud of me, man.
Uh-oh.
You be proud of me. I really wanted to drink a soda tonight, but I saw your face, before I bought it. I was like, no. So I'm doing lemon water right now, man.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So we got our peoples in the chat. A shout out to we got some Bodega fam in the chat. What up, everybody? We starting off dope. So what are we doing right now, man? What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing? So
what we are doing is allowing Adam Coleman to put on record exactly what he was trying to say during a very interesting conversation, which turned out to be quite the kerfuffle, if you will.
Right.
And Adam's here to really just to clearly lay down exactly what he was trying to present without the drama that was in the panel next to him.
So right. Bloviation. Without bloviation.
It's pretty wild, man. It's pretty. We want to set the record straight on something. Honestly, to be, after that dialogue. So, all right. So, for those of y'all who don't know, let me give some context, and I'll put the link to this dialogue in the description. But about a week ago, I had a dialogue with a figure who's very well known in the conscious community on Garfield Reid's Dagger Squad Channel. Shout out to Garfield, who had me on. Respect to him, and had a dialogue with Shakka Ahmose. Like I said, he's very well known in the conscious community and whatnot. And it really what it was supposed to be was just a dialogue in preparation for a debate. It really wasn't even supposed to be a debate. It really was just supposed to be a dialogue where we were supposed to kind of come together and just kind of come up with an idea that we could debate. Now, I'm gonna give some context, right, to how that popped off. When I was 2.5 years old, I had a friend named Skippy, and Skippy had this dog named Jerome, right? And this dog used to always bark at 5. let me stop.
I'm like, wow, talk about context.
That's an inside joke. That's an inside joke. Cause for anybody who was watching the dialogue, man.
Shakka I get it now. Wow, that's terrible.
Yo, this man, like seriously, bro, like this dude for every response, man, he was going on for like 20 to 30 minutes over just like simple questions, man. And that was one of the things that got people frustrated. And why we really couldn't get around to what the conversation was pretty supposed
actually,
to be.
Adam, can you go? I mean, don't go that far back to being two, but can you go back to the initial how this even came to be with you and Garfield and you know what I mean?
So all right, so here's what happened. And actually, I'm not even sure how this initially popped off, but people remember that on Garfield Reid's channel, we had that recent debate where Damon Richardson did an excellent job at going up against Richard Carrier, right? So that was like June 18th or June 19th. I think it was June 18th. So originally, that was supposed to be a doubleheader, right? The way Garfield initially announced it, it was supposed to be Richard Carrier versus Damon Richardson on the topic that they had, and then me and Shakka were supposed to be the day after, and we were supposed to debate. But the thing now, mind you, this is back in like May or something like that, like mid, early to mid May, somewhere in there, that this was put on the table. Garfield approached me and said, "Hey man, y'all trying to do this debate, blah blah blah." me and Shaka had some exchanges anyway, obviously online. Alfred, all about that. So, that was put on the table. We were supposed to debate. It was supposed to be a double hit, like a Juneteenth double header. That's what it was supposed to be. But that debate never happened because Shaka and I never came up with a subject to debate on. Right. So for me, from the outset, and this will actually kind of lead into some of the dialogue that took place, last week. From the outset, I said that I did not want to debate a topic where I was the only one on the defense. I made that very clear. Us communicating on Messenger, I made that very clear that I didn't want that to be the case, and we'll get into why later on. Now, I didn't want to be the only one on the defense, right? My perspective was that, at the outset, that an earnest debate is where both sides have, are putting something on the table, and the best arguments win. Best arguments and evidence win. That's how I approach debates. If we're just having a conversation on the street, that's the conversation will go where it goes. But if we're talking about a moderated debate, that's a whole different story. So anyway, I threw that out there, and we were supposed to, through the chats and kind of in Messenger rather, discuss different ideas, and that just kind of never came about. And so by the time Juneteenth came around, it was just really too late to put that debate together. But it was kind of understood that, hey, we'll try to sort something out and get it popping at some point. And so that's when Garfield later on down the road was like, hey man, y'all come up with something, and ultimately that matured into, hey, well, why don't we just have a live dialogue where we can discuss where our points of differences are, and then maybe out of that discussion we'll find, hey, here's a point that we can debate on. Actually, and from what I recall, I think that was Shaka's idea, that we have this dialogue, that we dialogue first before, we actually, and hopefully out of that we'll discover something that we can debate on. I was cool. I was like, all right, cool. I love the dialogue. We'll find where we're going to debate at, where we have points of agreement, and then we'll go from there. So here's the thing. Let me backtrack for a second. Another aspect to putting a debate topic on the table is well, I guess the first step is I didn't want to be the only one defending something. And B, these conscious community dudes, Shakka Ahmose included, never put forth their own worldview to be scrutinized and defended. You know what I'm saying? They don't articulate and advance their worldview. And so, I myself and many others have no idea what they even believe, or like what they, affirm, stand on, however you want to word it. So it's like we can't even come to terms on what to, like where we disagree, because they're always, got one hand behind their back in terms of with their worldview. So I'm like, okay, well, let's have a dialogue. Again, we're like, okay, cool, let's have a dialogue, find out where the disagreements are, and then out of that, we can find something to debate about. And so that's how last week's conversation came about. Just kind of like this back and forth on Messenger, trying to figure out what we were going to debate about, couldn't figure it out. It was agreeable to everybody to have a dialogue on Garfield's channel to where we could have this open dialogue, discover what, where the disagreement points are. And then from there, go ahead and, figure out what we can debate about. That's how that conversation came about last week. Yeah.
Yep. So that's how we got here.
That's how we got here, So now here's the weird part about it, for anybody who for anybody who saw it last week, it went real left. It went like super left. Like it was, it started out pretty cool, and let me just, we're just kicking this. So I'm gonna just be honest. I'm gonna kind of show some of my cards right here, right? One thing that people don't understand about me and about many of us apologists, urban apologists, is that when it comes to the conscious community, we've been watching these guys for a while. You know what I'm saying? Now maybe some of us are more in tune with what's going on in the conscious community than others, but somebody like myself, I make it my business to look into what's going on in the community, all aspects of my community, including the conscious community, right? So with that being said, I'm familiar with, Garfield's channel, I'm familiar with Signetter TV and all those kind of things. And so from the outside looking in, to be honest, it's been more so recent that we've had more opportunities to interact directly. And sometimes you honestly just don't know how people are going to be, how you're going to be received. Are people going to be nasty, whatever. And, much respect to him, Garfield's been mad cool, he invited me on the show. I know he's not a Christian. I know he doesn't rock with the Bible and whatnot. But nevertheless, he was mad respectful. You know what I'm saying? He was very orderly in how he brought things about. Mad cool, you know. Likewise, as Shakka mentioned during our dialogue, before the dialogue, like 2 or 3 weeks, before the dialogue, we spoke on the phone for like, hour 45 minutes, 2 hours. Very personable. Everything was chill. You know what I'm saying? That it wasn't like a 2-hour argument or nothing like that. It was a very cordial conversation, right? And even before we went live that day, again, we were behind the in the studio, the StreamYard studio, joking around. Everything seemed to be cool, right? So I'm thinking like, all right, cool. We're starting off on the right foot. We're gonna have this dialogue. Figure out what we're gonna debate about and then get out of here. I'm thinking it's gonna be like an hour, maybe 2-hour conversation tops. And so I was honestly as surprised as everybody else when Shakka just lost his mind on the live stream. I was honestly surprised. It's not to say that he hasn't exhibited that behavior in the past. Obviously, if anybody watches him, they know how he gets down. But because they start off on the right foot, I was just as shocked as everybody else that he got as disrespectful as he did. I mean, he called me a liar. He called me a coward. He started putting expletives in there, boy, and things like that. And to me, what people don't realize, like, it's just my affect. I keep a straight face pretty much at all times. That's just how I am. But the thing of it is, like, once you go there, then for somebody like myself, I'm like, oh, cool, I got you now. Oh, I'm good now. Like, okay, if I've gotten under your skin and I haven't even done anything, then that tells me that you've got an insecurity going on that you really don't want to deal with the arguments. So now you've just outed yourself.
You're mentally defeated already.
Oh, you're done. You're done. So at that point, yeah, I'm cool. I'm good because I know that I've got self-control. I'm not going to lose it. You know what I'm saying, and I can go wherever I need to go in the conversation. I'm already like you've just told me everything I need to know about that conversation. Once you lose your cool, So once he started tripping like that, in my mind, I'm like, oh, word, blood in the water, dog. I'm straight. You know what I'm saying? Like this, I'm comfortable now because I already know. I'm saying that wherever the conversation's got to go, I'm good. I know he's not willing to go there. So anyway, I mean, he's cussing and just going off. I mean, this dude's he's making chicken noises and all this kind of stuff. I mean, dude just is straight juvenile, man. So that's kind of how that went, man. But I got a couple things I want to say about it before we go there. Like, what were you guys' impressions about it?
Good, MJ.
Man, yeah, I was finishing up a work day, and I don't want to compare the dudes, but I have a real great appreciation for a person like Jabari or SASE after witnessing
super facts.
After witnessing that, and yeah, I mean, I heard about the conversations and stuff on the phone, how cordial they were. But it seemed like when this dude gets an audience, he goes Fox News on us a little bit. And right. But I agree with you. I mean, I think I know what was said that made the dude go off. I think it was when you said that he couldn't handle you in terms of philosophy, and that's the honest to God truth. If you confuse. If you make the statement that axiology has nothing to do with philosophy right then and there, you're done. You're done. You really you can use as many big words a day, but you really should do yourself a favor, like Malcolm X. Go read the dictionary, sit down, get off of YouTube, and just start writing the definition out because right then and there the dude was done. But it was a very sad thing to see a black man meltdown like that. I'm not used to seeing men act like that.
It was bad.
But especially that old.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If I can, speak on this the meta narrative perspective of this. Mm-hmm. This is a discussion that shouldn't never made its way to anyone's platform. This is a phone call conversation.
Right.
This is what is supposed to be. Hey, Shakka, Garfield would like for us to debate. How about we figure out, what things that we have in contention with? Let's pick one or two things, and then maybe we could pick from those two and debate that. That should have been like an hour conversation. There was no need for it to be a YouTube situation. That's a conversation behind the scenes,
right?
And it's just interesting that the conversation was about to have a debate. The conversation itself was not a debate. Because you have people online saying that he won. Won what?
How?
You know, if we all decided, right, that we're going to go to the movies and we're trying to figure out which film to watch. If none of us can agree on the film we're going to see, is there a winner in that conversation? No, nobody wins.
Yeah, how could it be? Right.
Nobody wins. So it's like, how does he win when we're trying to figure out how we can do something competitive? The conversation is about doing something competitive. The conversation itself should not have been competitive. It should have been a meeting of the minds trying to figure out how we can compete against each other. You know, so
that's all it was supposed to be. So imagine, like, so for somebody in my position, I'm thinking, you know, I'm not coming to. I mean, I'm always ready to defend the faith. I mean, that just is what it is. I don't, you know, people know I say all the time, you know, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my motto in general. But when it comes to, you know, this conversation, I'm thinking like, okay, if I have to defend a particular point, that's fine. But I honestly wasn't thinking that this dude was just gonna just lose his mind like that. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm thinking like, dang, like this cat, you know, I mean, to be honest, I said it, I did say it at the end. I think that there was some narcissism there. You know what I mean? And I understand that he probably got offended by that. But well, actually, I don't even know if he was offended, to be honest, because actually, when I, you know, he kind of, you know, acquiesced to it a little bit, you know, which is surprising. But you know, the thing about it is, I don't know if maybe people didn't understand why I said that. But maybe I just need to go there now. I mean, we're going to get into some video here in a second. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, I'm actually working on slides that'll make certain points more clear. Give me 1 second. Actually, while I'm doing that, y'all want to say anything else before I bring up the video here?
I mean, again, it was just so odd when people were saying that he destroyed Adam. Where? Again, the meta narrative, right? What was the discussion supposed to be about? Right? It's about setting up a debate. How does one win unless, and we was talking about this behind the scenes, unless we're talking about who had the better temperament during that conversation? If you want to make that into a competition, clearly Adam is the victor. If we're talking about temperament and maturity, right? But we're not gauging the conversation on wins and losses. We're gauging the conversation on what was the goal achieved? Did we leave that stream with knowing the subject matter of a debate? No, we did not.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
No, right? We did not.
So you know, it is what it is. So now, granted, with all that being said, I do think there's some things that you know, we can learn from that interaction, right? You know, we're even when we do critiques, you know, my overall goal. I mean, obviously, you've been following this channel, you should already know this, but my overall goal is to always look for, you know, lessons and things that we can, you know, teach so that people can go out and have these conversations and, you know, be a witness for Christianity. So we definitely want to get to some of that. But I want to say this though, like, you know, and again, this is not even a jab or anything like that, but to make clear, when I refer to the man as a narcissist, is because he was saying crazy stuff, like, you know, throughout the interview. Like, this man really, I mean, seriously, this man really said that the urban apologetics community essentially waited till the coast was clear and he was out of the picture before we started going at the conscious community. Like, he really said that, you know what I'm saying? Like, and he also, I don't know if people really caught what he was saying. Like, this man really thought that like his impression was that we were waiting until he wasn't around so we could, I guess, like, sneak out and start, you know, banging on, you know, on the conscious community. I mean, this man said also, you know, there's thousands of people, you know, leaving Christianity is because of me. You know what I mean? This man said that, you know, I got millions of people emailing me. I got millions of people, even Christians and Hebrew Israelites, emailing me because I woke them up. Bruh, how? Seriously, I mean, how do you have millions of people emailing you, millions of Christians and Hebrew Israelites emailing you that you woke them up, but you only got like 16,000 subscribers? How, bruh? How? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy.
Their Patreon banging if you waking millions of people up.
Fam, it's just cat city, like left and right, dog. And it's just like, man, come on, bro. Right. So when you say stuff like that, I'm trying to be chill. I'm not insulting the man's character, all this kind of stuff. But, you know, with that being said, I made it very clear, and I'm saying it now. Like, there's like, seriously, There is nobody in the urban apologetics community that made any moves whatsoever, like based upon whether or not Shakka Ahmose was in the picture. I clearly said that.
We said nothing about this dude.
How?
You know what? And I'm glad you brought that up.
Right.
Again, the meta narrative, right? I don't think people understand how. Let's go even back, right? So nobody in our community even addressed Shakka about anything. He decided to take it upon himself to create a series entitled Urban Apologists and the Lies That They Tell.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to do a whole series about all of us, right. The sisters included. All of us, right?
Right.
Cool. He does the introduction, right? Adam wants to deal with it right off the bat. I told Adam, no, let him rock. Let him do his first official episode first. He does his first episode. Cool. Me and Adam refute that episode. It takes 2 videos because there was so much information to refute.
Right.
And it's been 9 months since we've done that, and he has not responded. Oh, he's done videos, but not going at what we showed. So, right. But we was not bothering Shakka at all. He decided, I'm just going to let out a round of ammo to the whole community, and I guess he thought we wasn't going to say anything. But we said something, and you haven't said anything in response.
Obliterated those 2 videos.
Oh yeah, because this is what we do. And I mean, if you wanted to critique our stuff, all right, fine. I mean, that's how it should
exactly.
Be. If you feel like we said something in there, and you come back with it, I'm comfortable with it. Great. That's how this goes. If I say something crazy and you can refute me on it, fine, go for it. You know, that's cool. It's no skin off my nose. I'm good with that. But the reality is, man. So that's what I'm saying. Stuff like, you know, I did check out. I didn't finish all of it. But I did check out some of his, I call it damage control. You know what I'm saying? Where he came out with those live streams last week after our dialogue. And, you know, it just hours of damage control is what it sounded like to me. Because I think he knew he was looking crazy. But nevertheless, there was this one point where he's just ranting about, again, it's just like this self-centered narrative. Like, I think Michelle Turner had said something to him like, you were supposed to debate Adam, like, don't run from it. And somehow he interpreted from her statement that there was some sort of plan behind the scenes on our end where the Grand Dragons, you know, like Damon Richardson and Bantu and Mason were pushing me forward to debate him. And that was the plan, you know, or something like that. Bro, that's crazy. The reality is, just like I said, Garfield put it out there that we were supposed to debate for Juneteenth. And so when that was announced, I of course, like I do with anything. I tell my people, like, hey, yo, this is what's going on. I let my people know, hey, yo, I'm about to go debate on Juneteenth. That's what she meant by you were supposed to debate Adam, because we did have it on the books to debate, and It just never happened. That's what that was. But to him, in his mind, is, oh yeah, they got like this whole scheme, and like, okay, they was on the phone before. I mean, he said this. Y'all was on the phone before I got on, and you know, they were telling you what to ask me and all this and that. It's like, bam. First of all, this is real rap. I mean, I won't show you my text messages because it got their names on and stuff, but they didn't even know that I was doing a dialogue with Shakka until like 5 minutes before we went live. Before we were supposed to go live, because oh yeah, let me tell the fellas what's going on so they could tune in. It was really that simple. Yep. Like, nobody's sitting around twiddling their thumbs trying to figure out how to defeat Shakka Ahmose. That's like, nobody's doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy to me.
Oh, and since we're putting things on record, I would like to be on record saying that Adam Coleman is a Grand Dragon.
Oh, I appreciate that, man.
He is a Grand Dragon, not me. I mean, I appreciate the love, Shakka, but I'm not a pastor. I have no. I'm just a regular lay person, bro. I'm the apologist in training. Adam is a Grand Dragon. He has taught in conferences throughout the country. He's written a chapter in a national best-selling book. You know, he is a man who has some hardware behind him. He has a degree. You know what I mean? It's like he's a Grand Dragon. He is. And the other quote-unquote Grand Dragons say he's a Grand Dragon. So yeah, he's a Grand Dragon. I'm sorry.
Well,
in the words of G-Con, Adam Coleman is a complete apologist. So yeah, I second those sentiments by BK. brother, you had your shot, and I'm not trying to blow Adam's head up, but you had your shot with the measuring stick, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, and look, people know, man, I don't even put myself out there like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't make it seem as though I'm not omniscient, and I mean, I don't even come at it like that. But I mean, I did jokingly say to him, I said, man, Dad, can I at least be even like a little dragon or something? But so here's the thing. I we kind of set the stage for it, and I do want to get into, some video, because in watching, his damage control rants, last week, what I noticed was that it seemed like he was just kind of combing through the comments and primarily focusing on the ones that fit his narrative, so that I think he just kind of maybe block out the fact that he had this meltdown. So, but I'm not going to do that. What I want to do is I want to go to the videotape. I want to go to the actual tape, and people can see, his number one criticism is this whole thing I said about, having skin in the game, and he says that I'm running from this discussion with Jesus, discussion about some alleged connection between Jesus and Horus. He says that I'm running from that, and I don't want to, I mentioned skin in the game. I don't want to have my skin in the game. So I want to play a video, and I want to show you what he says I said, and then we're going to go back to what I actually said, right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and correct it. I'm just gonna let the video correct the narrative itself. I don't even have to do a whole lot of talking. So if y'all cool with it, I'm gonna go there.
Let's go. Let's get it.
Y'all, once I start this, make sure you put a 1 in the chat. Let me know that you can hear it. All right, so we're all on the same page. Let's set the record straight, man.
Yes, sir.
He said in the beginning, I want you to hear the double speak, and I want you to run the tape back when you watch this, so you can see what kind of people they are. He said, I named all of these different subject matters we can debate. I named Jesus and Horus. And then he went on a few other things. And then he said, but here's why we can't debate Jesus and Horus. So 1 minute we can debate Jesus and Horus, but then in the next minute, it's not a good idea to debate Jesus and Horus. Let's take it off the table. You should go run the tape back, because I took notes when he did it.
I said I wrote down the different topics that came up, and I'm giving you the reasons why I don't.
Bro, it's too late. It's too late. The tape got it. So that's all your role.
Yeah, you're right. The tape got it. Yeah,
play it back. So, power is the ability to define reality and have other people accept your definition as if it were their own. And that's what you've been trying to do from the time you opened your mouth. You've been trying to steer it away from Horus and Jesus. And even Christians watching this have to say, yes, he did. He's been saying, oh, that's not a good debate. Why? And he even gave a premise why he didn't want to debate it. Because of his skin in the game. Why are you so worried about your skin? If what we're saying is wrong, you should have no problem. You should say, yo, bring on that Jesus and Horus. Bring on the serious scholarship about that. But you're not saying that. You're trying to pretend and act like you want that work, but then you're giving yourself a segue out. Oh, but here's why I don't want to debate it. I'd rather debate this. So what did he do? You didn't want to talk about the Bible, the historicity of it. You didn't want to talk about the relationship between Jesus and Horus. You wanted to skirt over it, put it on the table, but then when I addressed it, you wanted to move on to other things that you felt would be more apropos for us to debate about. Why? Because you're scared about your skin in the game. If you don't believe me that he's scared about his skin in the game, right? Go back and rewind the tape and see how many times he mentions his skin. When do you use the word skin? When you're trying to save your skin.
But before I go, all right, so that's how he framed it right there, right? So he just said, he just encourages us to run the tape back. So that's what we're going to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are a couple of clips of how he framed what it was that I was saying. Now, if I wanted to be kind, I would say that he just doesn't follow arguments well, and maybe he misheard me. Maybe he wasn't listening. But honestly, at this point, I think that he was running himself, and maybe we'll get back to that in a minute. But you'll see. I think those were at the 2 hour 35-minute mark, and then again at the I think the 2 hour and 44-minute mark is where those clips were primarily taken from. So that's how he framed what I said, and this is the narrative that he was advancing all last week in his cleanup sessions, what I'm saying, trying I think save face. So now let's look at what I actually said. Y'all want to say anything before I play this? Or
no, let's continue. Let's get it.
Okay, so that's how he framed it. He claimed that I was running from the Jesus Horus debate. I was worried about skin in the game, And I'm just, I get scared for my life out here, whatever. So let's see what I actually said. Let's take a look at it. Here we go. Oh, let me say this, because I think we wanted to get down to something we could debate about. Now, I'm just going to list out the ideas that, at least in my mind, I think that we've thrown out there as possible for debate. And I'm going to tell you where I'm landing right now in terms of what I think we should debate about. We talked about, the connection between Jesus and Horus. I would say the lack thereof. That was thrown out. The God question, whether or not God exists. I asked the question about the mind. What is your concept of mind? And, and that sort of thing. Morality. What is your account of morality? And then also I named, the resurrection. I'm saying I talked about how there's, the biblical account for the resurrection. Now, from my standpoint, I don't want to agree on a debate where I'm the only one that has skin in the game, because I just don't think that's interesting. Styles make fights. All right, wait. Did y'all hear that? Right? I said I don't want to be where I'm the only one with skin in the game. Right? Styles make fights. All right, I just want to make that clear. Right? All right, here we go. You know what I mean? And so I think if I'm the only one defending, then to me that's not a earnest debate that would be profitable for the community. So out of those 5 options, to me, the Jesus versus Horus connection and the resurrection, topic, I don't think those really work, because ultimately I would just be the only one defending. Now that leaves the God question, the question about mind and morality. I think mind, in my opinion, you can tell me your thoughts. I think the question about mind can kind of get a little heady and into the weeds, and that may not be interesting for many of the viewers. So I would say I would table that. I'd like to discuss it, but I'm not sure if it'd be interesting. And if we both agree that God exists, then, depending on what your concept of God is, that may not be interesting either. So I'm down to this issue of morality. Between your worldview and my worldview, which worldview gives the best account of morality? You said that you laid out a concept that you believe that the question is, you subscribe, generally speaking, to some form of moral relativism, and you believe that morality basically comes down to psychology, and that it differs from people group to people group.
What did you say about moral relativism? Did I say?
You said, if I understand you correctly, you said you believe that morality is relative in some sense or another. I'm saying it depends upon the people group.
Sure.
Right. Okay. So moral relativism. You subscribe to some form of moral relativism. Sure. Right. You said that it's morality is ultimately grounded in psychology. Right. Yeah. So depending upon the person or the people group that you're dealing with, morality is going to differ from person to person or people to people group, and in that sense is relative. Right. You also mentioned this idea about axiology. It'd be interesting to get your understanding of what axiology is, because I don't know how you can have a philosophy of axiology, at least a robust one anyway, and ground morality and psychology. But let's just leave that for now. Yeah. Where I'm at is, I think an interesting debate in terms of
what did you say about axiology? You said you didn't know how I can have an axiology without what? Without a philosophy? Is that what you said?
No, what I'm saying is that if you ground axiology in psychology, then ultimately what I'm saying is you're gonna run into some philosophical problems. That's what I'm really saying. So if that's your position, I think that'd be interesting. But maybe
I think you will run into some philosophical problems. I won't.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying that might be a point of contention that might come out in debate. So I'm just saying I'll just table that for now. Nevertheless, out of the ideas that we've listed out thus far, I say, your worldview against mine. You know what I'm saying? Like what worldview best gives an account for the foundations of morality? The biblical worldview or moral relativism? That's what I think we should go with. Okay. Aside from that, though, when it comes to having skin in the game, I think that you guys on your end of the conversation, many of you are most comfortable when you're attacking somebody else's worldview and you're not comfortable with articulating and defending your own. If we talk about the issue of morality, then that's a subject where you have to bring to the table your worldview, articulate it, and defend why it is that your worldview gives a better framework for morality than the biblical worldview. When it comes to Jesus and Horus, that's not the case. You would be defending a claim, and I would be defending both a claim and my beliefs and my worldview, right? And that's uneven. So to me, again, y'all been banging on the Bible like forever, dog. Y'all been banging on Christianity forever. And what I'm saying is, where I come from, if somebody's talking slick about you, then when you come see that person, then they ought to have something to say, right? So what I'm saying is, if y'all been talking slick, then okay, cool. Let's meet head to head, 50-50. You bring your worldview to the table, I bring mine. We'll bring arguments and evidence, and then we go from there. That's what I'm saying. How could it be the case that? All right, yeah. So I'm gonna pause it right there, man. So, I mean, the tape speaks for itself, man. What y'all think, man? What y'all think?
What's interesting, and I hope people caught it, was during the conversation about what we should debate about, Adam is actually within that same conversation summarizing what that conversation they're currently having should be about. He did a summary. He's like, okay, this is what I wrote down. These are the ideas. And then he's like, well, this idea doesn't work because it's been done before. This idea doesn't work because we kind of have agreement. This idea won't work because the people might not be interested. And then he was going down. What he was doing was he was bringing the conversation back to what it was supposed to be, figuring out what the debate should be. He was actually summarizing the conversation while the conversation was occurring. It was like Inception over here. It was like, you know what I mean? It's like he's trying to, and he's doing that because he sees that Shakka's going back and forth and it's being derailed. By him summarizing, what Adam was attempting was to bring the conversation back to the actual point of the topic, which is, what should we debate?
That was the topic. That was the topic. And notice people, like, here's the thing, like, he keeps harping on this whole thing about skin in the game. If you notice what I said is, I don't want to be the only person with something to defend. My entire perspective on that, like my whole angle on why I didn't want to mess with the Jesus Horus connections, because to me, I wanted to pick a topic where we evenly came to the table, right, with something to defend. I literally said that. I did not say that, oh, I'm worried about my skin in the game, I don't want to put my worldview at risk. I literally said, let's pick a topic where we come at it 50-50, your worldview against mine, and the best arguments and evidence win. Like how much more equitable could we be, right? And so I'm gonna come back to that in a second, man. But I'm gonna let you know what you think, Matt. What you think, man?
Well, I mean, who could defend moral relativism when we, when around this time last year we see what happened to George Floyd? Who would be willing to advance such an absurd position as that? And who would come out the closet and push a position like that amongst black people whose ancestors were slaves? And then you have the nerve to talk about reparations, or maybe I'm not sure what his positions would be, but I know he liked money, so inspiration, But I mean, come on now. I mean, no, he wasn't willing to. It's easy to attack. It's easy to attack. It's another thing when you put some skin in the game and you risk you risk getting knocked off that hill.
Right. Simple as that.
Can we talk about the whole Jesus Horus thing now? Or are we gonna do that later?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
All right.
What you got? Yeah.
Well,
I know you want to share your screen, right? On the
that's what I do. Now, usually I come with 1,001 slides. I will not be doing that this evening.
You just got 1,000?
Just have, I guess, 2 or 3, 4 at most. So let me share my screen.
Okay.
Hold on.
And why you doing that? I mean, one of the reasons why I showed it is, again, so that people could compare. Like, it's so easy for people to put their own spin on this stuff. You know what I'm saying? But, rather than me just combing through the comments like he did on his cleanup crew videos later on, and just, picking the ones that I'm like, look, let me just show you actually what happened. I got nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. From the beginning, it was about, look, let's put both of our worldviews to the test.
So I want to put this concept of somehow Adam is running from having the Jesus Horus conversation. One of the reasons why he didn't want to do it is because it's been done a lot
to death.
And to showcase that, I just took some screenshots of some YouTube videos talking about it, right? You have Doc Remedy, Horus, Jesus Mythos, Zeitgeist movie debunked. That was 6 years ago, right? This YouTube channel called The Awakening proved that Jesus isn't a copy of Horus. That was 6 months ago. The 1 Minute Apologist is the story of Jesus just like Horus. That was 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. Truth Be Told 7, parallels between Jesus and Horus, Egyptian sun god, 9 years ago. Right? Here's another one, Adherent Apologetics, right? Jesus and Horus compared. That was a year ago. Red Rebuttal, Jesus versus Horus, 6 years ago. And guess who else talked about it? You guessed it. BK and Adam Coleman, right? Jesus or SASE Vince Bantu debate. Is Jesus a copycat of Horus? breakdown / response.
I think you just said Jesus or SASE, bro.
Oh, my bad. Jabari or SASE.
You're gonna see, they're gonna be like, see? You're gonna
I know, right? I know, right?
Oh man.
Almost 3 hours worth of content about whether or not Jesus is a copycat of Horus. Adam is not afraid to have that discussion. He's clearly not. And so to say that he's afraid it's strange. And not only is it done to death, and I'm gonna keep it a stack right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it so real right now.
Okay.
So Jabari already gave an argument for the Jesus and Horus connection, right? Mm-hmm. It's a bad argument, but he can articulate the argument better than Shakka could. Shakka does not have the skill set, the oratory skills to articulate that argument as good as Jabari does. So for Adam to have this conversation again with somebody who cannot articulate it as well as the person that has already done it, it's a step going backwards. Just to keep it 100, it's a step going backwards. He cannot articulate the argument, as bad as it is, better than Jabari. I'm sorry, he just cannot.
Right, I really believe it's a terrible argument. Like there's, to be honest, I said that, that night. I think I don't think it's a good argument. I don't think it's worth, our time, to debate it. I really don't. I don't know if he thought I was just, blowing smoke or whatever, but I really believe that though. You know what I'm saying? And to your point, I think that Jabari has, quite frankly, when it comes to people in the conscious community who have advanced the argument, I think that Jabari has framed it, better than anybody else that I've heard. And by better, I mean, I think he's made an earnest attempt. I still think it's trash. You know what I'm saying? The argument itself, you know what I'm saying? But, at least he's put it as best it possibly could. And, at the end of the day, it still fails, right? So, here's the other thing. And BK, you know this. I'm working on another slide here, so I can come make another point here in a second. But aside from the conscious community, because again, you got YouTube videos that's been done it. Aside from the conscious community, you have us who's covered it. When it comes to Vince Bantu, right? In their first debate, they had a whole section on, what was it from Jesus? Was Jesus connected to Horus, or actually was Christianity derived from Kemet and so forth, where they covered the Jesus Horus thing, kind of within that context. Right. Matter of fact, right here, Urban Apologetics, restoring Black dignity with the gospel. Vince Bantu has a whole chapter on Kemeticism, where he just, goes in on this notion of Kemeticism being derived from, Christianity being derived from Kemet, and the whole nine. Like he describes it in this book right here. When it comes to outside the conscious community, you have people. Gosh, it's almost insulting to have to deal with it. But Shakka is advancing a position that really people haven't taken seriously in maybe over 100. Well, I say about 100 years or so, right? The idea of evaluating the Jesus narrative, we'll say the text about Jesus, within the backdrop of mythology. You know what I'm saying? That's out of date. You know what I'm saying? Like people understand that the proper way to understand those texts is to evaluate it with the backdrop of Second Temple Judaism, first century Judaism. That's the proper context. If you want to glean, anything of historical merit or just be accurate in terms of how we're analyzing the text, let's just say it that way. You know what I'm saying? It's the proper context is understanding within and if you Judaism as a backdrop.
If you could allow me, Adam, to let me use the whole skin in the game concept with the Jesus and Horus debate, right? Okay. So maybe we could elucidate what we mean by skin in the game. Let's say the debate takes place, and let's say Shakka actually shows without a shadow of a doubt that Jesus is a composite sketch of Horus and maybe some other Kemetic deities. What happens then? Well, that deflates Christianity and its worldview. It's done. There is no more Christianity.
Right.
But if Adam shows without a shadow of a doubt that Jesus is not a composite sketch of Horus and other Kemetic deities, what does Shakka loses? Because he doesn't worship Horus, any of them. Horus the Elder, Horus of the Horizon, Horus the Child. None of the Horuses.
Right.
What does he lose if he loses that debate? Nothing. Right. That's what we mean by skinning the game. If we lose, our worldview goes bye-bye. If he loses, what?
Right.
That's what we mean.
Let me. I got something I can share on that. Well, just to demonstrate your point here.
And while you pulling it up, Adam, while you pulling that up, I mean, let's just keep it real. We're not the only ones saying this. Garfield went. I'm not going. Went to intellectual blows with Jabari over how outdated the scholarship is, over how bad these arguments is. If anything, it could have been the setup, because I'm just keeping it real. The Jesus Horus debate would have been the W. Like, I'm being perfect. I'm being honest about it.
Right.
And there are many in that community who knows that the arguments are bad. The only reason why the arguments are still used is because they're tied to people like Dr. Ben, Henry Clark, and John G. Jackson. That's the only reason why they still use it. They have an epistemology that's dictated to them by maybe some of their elders. But I mean, I'm sorry, it's just not the way to go.
Right. I mean, so here's the thing. I'm gonna show my cards right here. Watch this. Right. Watch this. Well, you know what? Actually, let me make this point first. Then I'm gonna show my cards to the point that you were making, BK. And I think this is really for all apologies out here. This is something that we need to keep in mind. I say this all the time, right? When we come to these discussions, particularly if you're talking about a moderated debate, but sometimes it's appropriate, whether it's on the street corner or whatever, depending on the situation. But Christians spend far too much time on the defense. We feel like, here's the thing, we feel like we're always the ones that have to defend Christianity, when the reality is all worldviews have to give account for themselves, right? There are certain things that are true about the world, right? And if you're coming from a Muslim background, a Kemetic background, Hebrew Israelite background, or whatever, we all have a worldview, and we're all standing back looking at what's real about the world. And the question is, who can give the best account about it? But what we do is, as Christians, we're always the ones feeling like, oh no, we got to stop people from banging on the Bible, blah, blah, blah. No. Wait a minute. Sometimes we need to be conscious to let people carry their end of the conversation, right? Because what happens, I'm putting it all out there. Watch this. What happens is, what these dudes do, rather than stand on their square, what they're going to do is they expect us to step in the ring and defend our worldview while they just play Floyd Mayweather the whole time. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't really matter how much evidence you give them. It doesn't really matter how much, you can give them evidence from A to Z. And at the end of the day, they're just gonna be like, well, no, you haven't convinced me. They do their best all the time, right? But the reality is, I don't know why we jump in the ring without expecting them to carry their end of the conversation, right? So for me, if you're asking me to be part of a moderated debate, just think about this. Why would I go into a debate and just purposely put myself at a disadvantage? Why would I do that? Right? Why would I do that? That makes absolutely no sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest a topic where neither one of us is necessarily at a disadvantage. So we can kind of meet in the middle. So again, I described it actually, and you brought this out too, BK. If we're debating the Jesus Horus thing, then he's defending a claim, right? He's just defending the claim whether or not Jesus derived from Horus. He's saying the affirmative. Yes, Jesus did derive from Horus in some sense or another. That's all he's defending. There's no skin off his nose whether he's right or wrong. I, on the other hand, am not only defending a claim, I'm also defending my worldview, right? So if you look at it as like a scale, the scale is weighted further down on my end of the conversation. There's more against me. I'm fighting an uphill battle. So if I understand it, listen, I do this for real. Like, this is not something like I watch debates like people watch the NBA finals. That I'm a nerd like that. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at debates, I'm like, look, if you're gonna enter into a moderated debate, then it doesn't make sense to enter into one where you're at a disadvantage off the bat. What you want to do is you want to meet 50-50, whenever possible, and go from there. You know what I'm saying? Like, hold people's feet to the fire about their end of the bargain, right? That's what we need to be doing. Now, Again, if I was going to get into that debate, if I was going to do the Jesus Horus debate, it's not going to end well for Shakka, man. It's not going to be good. I'm going to tell you why. I'm just throw it out there, because first of all, I'm gonna bring out something like, you have the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. I'm saying that's Latin for before this, therefore, because of this. That's basically what it means. I'm saying the idea that, well, because Horus, came before Jesus, therefore, they got this overlap, and Jesus was inspired by Horus. That whole notion. If you're going to try to show some similarity and go there, I'm going to show how that's fallacious. And then after I get done showing how that's fallacious, but while you're focusing on the similarities, I'm going to show you this list of dissimilarities, because that's something that they don't do. I'm saying they want to focus on whatever they can consider to be some overlap or similarity, while leaving out the dissimilarities, right? So I'm going to show you where the fallacy lies, and then I'm going to cut down what you believe to be similarities by showing that the sources that you hold to actually don't say what you claim that they say. So that's going to cut down some of those similarities, and then I'm going to go the next step and show where the dissimilarities are between Jesus and Horus.
It'll be bad.
So everywhere it's going to be bad. What's going to happen is, from the first round to the last, you're gonna see, from you exposing the fallacy to undercutting the supposed similarities by showing what the sources actually say, and then going further and showing the dissimilarities. Then it's going to get further and further apart between Jesus and Horus, and you're going to see clearly that one wasn't derived from the other. Then I'm going to take it even further than that, because if you understand history, come on, man, listen. If you understand how history works, let me take this off the screen. Right, what historians want to do. They want to take a set of data. They want to say, okay, we have a set of data here. What best explains this set of data, right? What best explains what we're seeing from the ancient world about what seems to have happened, right? Now, here's the thing. If you're going to say that, I'm going to make the claim that the Jesus narrative as described in the New Testament, everything, all the teachings about Jesus can be accounted for within the Jewish tradition, right? And I'm going to show you where, throughout the Jewish tradition, how everything from, logos theology, which we can attribute to the Memra, I'm going to show it to, messianically and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to break all that down and say everything that's being taught about Jesus, we don't have to look outside the Jewish tradition for that. We can find it situated right there within first century Judaism. So if you're going to postulate that there's some other influences, what's happening is you're going to have to, show that there's some other sources. And the more and more layers of these other sources that you claim, that's going to cause your theory about what's going on there to be broader and broader, right? I'm saying it's going to be top heavy, and you attempt to explain. And the thing is, it becomes what's the word I'm looking for? It becomes ad hoc. That's what we're looking for. It's a clunkier explanation. And from a historian standpoint, the clunkier explanations are going to be the ones that they discard. So I'm going to show you, after I get rid of the similarities, show you the dissimilarities, show you the fallacy, then I'm going to show you how a sleeker explanation for Jesus' teachings can be found within the Judaic traditions, rather than you're trying to add on these other influences that you ultimately can't account for. So I'm going to give you a slimmer explanation. That's the Occam's razor, if you will.
And honestly, Shakka knows it's a bad argument.
It's a bad argument.
He's just using it as a foil to make it seem as if you're running, because you said you didn't want to, and you said why. But he used that as a foil to try to make it seem as if you are running. Right. Where clearly, if we did have, honestly, I think even you say, you know what, let's have that debate, Shakka, he would make an excuse not to have that debate.
He should. It would be a bad debate, because again, by the time I finish all that, it's gonna be like there's nothing left. There's nothing left. But and again, the reason why I can walk through that is because I read this stuff. Like this is stuff that's been hashed over several times. You know what I'm saying? And so why in the world would I want to do the same debate? Like, again, Jabari, like, the first big debate between the Christian community and, the Kemetic community, conscious community, whatever you want to call it, they addressed this. I'm saying between Jabari and Bantu. We just saw, like a month ago, between Richard Carrier and Damon Richardson. Damon Richardson demolished that man. You know what I'm saying? And we just hashed it out twice. Why would we do a round 3 on the same exact topic? It makes no sense. Now, what does make sense, and this is kind of gets to something that I think was really behind it all, and I said it several times, during our dialogue last week. At the end of the day, I believe that Shakka and many others like him are incapable of articulating and defending their worldview, and I think that was evident throughout our dialogue. I mean, to be honest, I think that what you see, if people can go back and watch the tape, make your own impressions of it. But I think what you saw was that I don't even think that Shakka understood why I was even asking worldview questions. He claimed that he did, but you could tell that he wasn't. I think that he interpreted it as I'm trying to put I'm basically arguing my opinions, or my individual personal perspective against his individual personal perspective. I think when he heard the word worldview, that's what he thought I meant. But I think he doesn't understand where worldviews, how they work and where they're situated, in the game when it comes to, debate, like how they play into the debate. I think he really genuinely didn't understand that. And so I found myself having to educate him in terms of how worldviews connect to the very things that he's saying. He said, I didn't play it because he was cussing, but he said, I don't give a damn about your worldview. All I care about is facts. And he starts going on about, morality and psychology and so on and so forth. And so there's a section, people can go back and check it out, where I actually have to break down for him how worldviews connect to what he believes about supposed facts. I'm saying that shouldn't have to be the case, but I think he honestly didn't understand. He's just not used to thinking on that level. And I'm not trying to be condescending, but I think he honestly couldn't make those connections, man. I think it was frustrating for him.
But it goes back to what you said about the entire community. They do not stay on their square because it's not profitable. Like, they've created an entire cottage industry in critiquing and banging on Christianity. Like, these guys have become famous to a certain extent and well known in the Black community solely on critiquing and banging on Christianity. So the idea of defending something that they themselves believe, well, that puts them on Front Street, right? The spotlight goes on them. They don't want to do that because as long as you're pointing fingers at somebody else, you always look somewhat intelligent, right? And in sports, right, offense wins games, but defense wins championships. And they can't defend anything because it goes against their profit margin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I even said it's like, if you say to me, here's the thing, if you make a claim that if you say you don't care about my worldview, and then you say you don't know this, I'm just repeating what he said. What does God have to do with this or that? And you're talking about morality, you're making these different claims. Then what you're telling me is you have an underdeveloped worldview. Like, you don't understand how those big questions relate to the very claims that you're making. He just outed himself basically, that he doesn't understand how these things fit together. You know what I mean? And it was sad, but at the same time, I think that was the real frustration behind why he ended up calling me a liar and, I'm running this, I'm running that. I mean, I think that really was behind it. But what you think, Matt? What you got, man?
The real frustration is you not getting paid to teach this brother as you debating him. That's the real frustration. and I know it sounds condescending. I mean, it does, but I'm sorry. Look, what does God have to do? Well, God is most likely going to determine your metaphysics. Your metaphysics is going to determine what do you think is possible. And when we're doing historiography, some of these people come to the evidence that miracles are not possible. So right then and there, you're reading your metaphysics into the history. Your worldview also determines your epistemology. Shakka makes a big deal out of the certificates on a person's wall, and he doesn't care if they go home and do certain things, but you should care if a person is ethical, because you looking at the certificate, you place a lot of faith in that certificate. That certificate conveys something to you, whether or not it conveys knowledge to you in a reliable manner. That's another sort. Whether knowledge is conveyed in all those books, that once again, that has to do with epistemology. Once again, you have not thought these things out, and we would have to sit you at our feet and teach you. And you're too egotistical for that to happen. So I don't think that you can have this debate. Once again, even though Brother Ozaze made some mistakes, he kind of had a better grasp on the Kemetic worldview, right? Such as to understand, and he still got caught up, but God being everything. Look, that's pantheism. These are different worldviews, and they have implications over how you see the world, how you treat people. Yeah, I mean, and they can be tested. But what I would say is he could have formulated, if he took the debate, such as worldview versus worldview, he could have launched an attack on your worldview. because the Christian worldview hinges on whether or not Jesus existed. So I mean, you could have put together a negative argument or a negative presentation. You would have still just had to argue positively for your worldview. So it could have been done, but I don't think he knew how to do it.
What you just said is the issue. The fact that he has to not defend his worldview in any capacity, no matter the topic, he would eventually have to stand on the square and to defend his worldview. And that is something he refuses to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just he's unaware again of how these worldviews work. I mean, if you notice, if you play the clip back that I just played a second ago, where I mentioned while I was breaking down the different topics and what I thought we would debate about, I explained to him his worldview based upon what he said. He articulated that he believed that that axiology or morality or whatever is grounded in psychology. That's what he claimed. Right. So when he said that, the first thing in my mind was, oh, okay. So you're saying that, you subscribe to moral relativity. So when it came back around to my time to talk, I was able to reflect back to him. Okay. So you claim that such and such about, morality. That's where we disagree. And then I'm saying, okay, well, let's have a debate about that. So I'm listening to him. I'm taking what he's saying very seriously. I'm being attentive. Right. And I'm able to reflect to him what his worldview is. I don't think that he was able to do the same in the opposite direction. Because when I was asking worldview questions, I don't think he was able to make the connections necessary to understand why I was bringing these things to the table. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he just wasn't able to follow where I was going, And again, I mean, it sounds bad. Like, it sounds like I'm trying to diss the guy, but I'm just saying, I really think that that's what was going on. And I say that as a teaching tool. At the end of the day, I think that we have to be mindful that sometimes we have to slow conversations down and you just kind of walk people through things and not just assume they know A, B, and C. You know what I'm saying? So, when it comes to a worldview, like you talked about, Matt, I mean, you've got metaphysics, what exists. You've got anthropology, you've got knowledge, you've got ethics. You have, you might say salvation, or what's the solution for the human predicament, depending on how you want to frame it. And how you approach those big issues is going to filter into, really whatever area of study that you approach, whether it be science, whether it be history, no matter what, there are philosophical underpinnings to all of those disciplines. And if you don't understand that there's philosophical underpinnings and that those philosophical underpinnings are going to be beholden to a particular worldview, at least to some extent, then, I mean, you're not really going to get why Adam Coleman is bringing up worldviews, right? And I think that really had a lot to do with it, man. I think it had a lot to do with it. You know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, there was even someone in the chat that actually said that you was actually being disrespectful for even asking Shakka of his worldview, which I found very weird. Like, how's that a disrespectful thing to do?
Right.
Well, let me say this. What you have within certain humanistic communities is, it's not for me. Some people will say it's not for me to say whether God exists. I'm too puny of a human, I'm just a human, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. What the Christian is saying is that God has revealed himself and he has spoken and acted in history. And if he has done that and he commands men everywhere, men and women everywhere to repent, we're just going along with what God said. It has nothing to do with us being arrogant or anything like that. So, you can either deny it or you can state as fact that God exists, or you can say that, hey, man, I don't know which way to go. I'm agnostic.
Right. All those things matter, man. All those things matter. Speaking of which, that was another beef that he had with me. Apparently, he claimed that I was that I disrespected the entire community, but by saying that I was skeptical of people who claim that they grew up in church or used to be Christians and stuff like that. Y'all remember that part of yeah. So he had a real problem with that. He claimed that
they you was taking some elitist, you was being a snob about and again, right? We're not saying that you have to be in seminary to be able to articulate the Christian worldview. I will use myself as an example. I only have a high school diploma and a couple of college credits. That's it. I am a lay person in my church. I hold no office. I'm not a deacon. I'm not an evangelist, pastor, nothing. I'm Joe Blow in my church. That's it. So you can articulate if you care about understanding what you believe.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
sure. Matter of fact, I might just play a real quick clip along those lines. Since we're I'm running to be clear. When those 4 topics I offered up to you because 5 topics are I saw the black community by making a statement about people being Christians and leaving the church, so on and so forth. I think if you play the tape back, what I said was, and if I didn't say it, then maybe I need to make it clear. What I'm saying is that when people claim to be former Christians, they went to church and they know this and that and so forth. And I said this in response to something you said earlier. You said you grew up in church and had this advanced inside track, if you will, on Christianity. When people make that claim, I'm skeptical, because when it comes to people who are, I've come across in what I refer to as the conscious community. If y'all want to correct me on the lingo, fine. But when I come across people who say that they're former Christians, I've yet to meet one that really had a grasp of sound theology, what Christians actually believe, and can give a formal critique. So that, yes, I am skeptical when it comes to people like that claiming they were Christians. It doesn't mean anything for you to attend church. From a Christian standpoint, like you can attend church and not be a Christian. People do it all the time in Easter and Christmas, right? So if people are offended by that, then I stand on that. I am skeptical of people who claim to be former Christians who can't accurately articulate what it is a Christian believes and then give a critique as to why they left. That's where I stand on it. That's opinion. But again, I think what you saw there with Shakka, I was bringing that up towards the end, is an appeal to emotion. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, he just insulted the whole community. He insulted the black community. That's an appeal to emotion. And quite frankly, I just have more respect for our audience than to just try to do cheap tricks about appeal to emotion or faith. Oh, yeah. The thing about faith, I can do this in 30 seconds. But notice that, again, Shakka Ahmose, when he went to the Define Faith, he went to like the Oxford Dictionary. Like he didn't consult the original languages that the Bible was written in, whether it be the New Testament in Koine Greek or the Old Testament in Hebrew. I've got whole videos on this. And unless you want to draw a straw man, against Christianity and try to knock that down, if you really want to be intellectually honest and take a swing at Christianity itself, then you need to go at how Christianity, what's the biblical definition of faith, how the authors use that term, and what it means in the Greek and the Hebrew. If you're not gonna engage the original languages, then all you're doing is creating a straw man. That's not intellectual honesty. It's not good scholarship, and it's not something that anybody with, quite frankly, who cares about our community should accept. I mean, so here's the thing, right?
I forgot he said that thing about faith. Yeah, that was crazy.
But that's my thing though. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there though, right? Like you have people, and this is for everybody, because we encounter this all the time. Oh, I grew up in church. Man, I used to go to church. I was a Christian for 50,000 years. You know what I'm saying? I know what's up. And I'm telling you, bro, like, man, look, we've been doing this for a while, man. You know what I'm saying? We've been doing this for a while now. And I'm telling you, I have not met a single person who makes that claim and is able to articulate the biblical worldview or just some general understanding, an accurate understanding of Christianity in terms of what we actually hold to, and then be able to critique it. Right. So I'm not saying definitively you're not saved. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe not. I don't know. You could be just really deceived. You could be, maybe it was the case. Like, I think it was. I'm probably going to jack it up, but it talks about in that one passage with those who went out from us. That was an indication that they were not of us in the first place.
Right.
Be the case. You left the church and because you wasn't really a Christian in the first place. That might be the case. But what I know is it doesn't bear any weight with me whatsoever in a dialogue or debate when somebody says I used to be a Christian. That means nothing to me.
Right.
Okay,
and they hate when we address that because they need to be able. They need for us to agree that they are an actual bona fide Christian, because that gives credence now to their argumentation. It's like, well, I know your worldview because I at one point subscribed to it. So I am speaking as someone with some sort of insight and authority. Right. But when you undercut that, they can no longer do that, and they throw a fit.
I mean, absolutely. And you know what? Actually, shout out to Dino. She I was actually literally about to go here. You know what I'm saying? Because the same, like back to back. All right, so I had a dialogue with Shakka. I'm saying, and then the main dialogue I had before that was with brother Jabari on Sinetta, right? And both of them made this claim. I used to be in the church. I think Shakka was like, I was a Christian for 30 years, or whatever he said. I don't know.
I listen to gospel music and I do this. And
Shakka was like, I listen to gospel music. I was a Christian before you were born in the 70s or whatever he said. I'm like, okay, look, if you go hard in the paint and say that you have this advantage because you was in the church, and then you make these just crazy fundamental mistakes about misdefining faith, and you're really hinging an argument on that, then I mean, what am I supposed to think, man? Like, come on, dog. Like, you can't like tout yourself as having this knowledge and then make stupid claims, stupid arguments like that. I'm not going to take it seriously. I that's why I don't take it seriously when people say I used to be a Christian or I used to go to church. Same thing with Jabari. In that dialogue, people can go check that out. Right. When me and Vocab was on Side Netter, oh yeah, I'm a theologian or whatever he said. I don't know, but he's got 30 years of experience.
It's an MDiv.
The MDiv, right? and then you post up a picture of white Jesus with the bird figure and I guess a figure of the Father, and you're making some claim about the Trinity or something like that, trying to be funny.
Beavis and Butthead.
And then on top of that, right? And then you're making claims about God created evil, and yet you can't even tell me about how Augustine worked that out back in the late 4th, early 5th century. Yeah. So you're telling me you don't know what you claim to know. So when Jabari says, I know all this and that about Christianity, no, you don't. You're saying, no, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't make the bad arguments that you make against Christianity. I'm being real. Like, here's the thing. I can tell what somebody knows based upon the objection that they bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? I already know. Like, if you bring a silly, just, fundamentally flawed objection, I already know you don't know nothing about Christianity. So, and that's what I experienced in both cases.
The Immaculate Conception.
Oh Lord!
Come on, man. Which one was? Yeah, was it Jabari brought up the Catholicism? Which one I brought that up? I'm trying to think.
It was Jabari.
What about December 25th?
December 25th.
Shakka did a whole video, which he forgot that he did.
Then denied that you did it. Why bring that up, Adam? Why bring that up? Why bring it up? Because
Shakka owes me and Adam $50 a piece.
He owes us money. This man, let me say, listen,
he owes us money, fam.
Real rap. I'm gonna put the video. I'm gonna put the description to the video I'm gonna put the link to that video in the description. I'm gonna put a timestamp. This man Shakka actually said that there's a first century tradition that suggested that Horus was born on the winter solstice, which at that time was December 25th. That's literally what he said, right? But yet, in our dialogue last week, he said, "You'll never catch me saying that Horus was born on December 25th." I mean, bro, you literally said that.
You did a whole video that we addressed. Right?
Come on, man. If Horus was born on the winter solstice, and the winter solstice was December 25th, according to you, or whatever source you want to cite, then you're saying that Horus was born on December 25th. That's the claim. You owe us $100. You owe actually, I'll say you owe BK $100 because he was the first one to pull that up, right? So again, this is the kind of silly stuff that I'm talking about, man. So it's hard to take people seriously when they're touting some level of knowledge that they clearly don't have, right? You guys do not know the biblical worldview like that, and I'm saying that to the whole conscious community. I'm dead serious about that. I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I'm just saying that here. Let me just throw this out there. I'm giving y'all a free game. Here you go, right here, right. The conscious, many, if not most people in the conscious community believe that that Christians are dumb. Let's just be real. Let's just be honest. They honestly believe that we come to the table with less than scholarship. I'm saying, like, I'm not even gonna say the word that Shakka used. Listen, I'm telling you, real rap. You guys are now being exposed to Christians. We're not the same Christians that y'all was running up on 125th. That's not what it is now. That's not what it is. If Adam Coleman shut down Tru-ID today,
it's a different cloth.
Seriously, I can stop. This could be, if this was my last video right now today, we got a whole roster of Christians who are intellectual. They be in these books. They know their stuff, and they can go toe to toe with any of y'all. Real rap. I'm dead serious about that. This is not about Adam Coleman. Like, I'm telling you, like these are not the same Christians. The urban apologetics community, and we're growing every day. This is not the same people that just random Christians y'all running up on the 125th and talking about white Jesus. And
Shakka knows that. He has said that on Sunday. He has said that.
Right. That's not what this is. And so seriously, they're gonna have to just do away with that myth. I'm saying it's not the case that we just a bunch of dumb Christians and we don't need scholarship.
Hey, Adam, Zach, I think has a really great question.
Oh yeah.
Should highlight.
Okay.
I was gonna say, Alfredo, he really hates you.
I gotta find Zach
don't hate me. It's not hatred.
I know.
It's not hatred. It's definitely not hatred.
Okay, let's go here. All right, dead serious question for you three, because I greatly respect all of you. At what point do you shake the dust off your sandals, like it says in Luke 10, and move on from these guys? That is a really good question. That's a really good question. I I've got my perspective on it, but you guys can take a stab at that.
I mean, okay. When it comes to MJ, go for it.
Yeah. Real quick, in terms of Shakka, we're not trying to convince him. You pray for Shakka, but Shakka's still, he's putting out some information. Look, we can do a couple of videos. I think that the two videos that Adam and Alfredo did had thoroughly refuted him. This right here is theater for the most part. What he's doing is theater and theatrics. It's nothing of any substance. Nothing, just straight up rhetoric and hopefully trying to get some style points, if anything. And we're not interested in that. But in terms of Shakka, I mean, the dust is shook. I mean, those two videos are pretty good, unless I feel like slumming around with my meager scholarship. But the platforms are putting out. The platforms are putting out content. So pretty much for what we do also is there's an edification side to what we do as well for the other saints. And sometimes certain things require an answer. So that's my position on it.
What you got, BK? What you think, man?
Well, first of all, Zach, I want to say thank you so much for supporting us. Because I see you in the chat a lot. And you've definitely been an advocate for what we're trying to do. So I just want to say that we really appreciate you, Zach. And
Zach, because I do.
And I mean, I would love to sit down and have a cup of coffee, man, chop it up with you, once this whole pandemic thing hopefully goes away. So I just want to say that first and foremost. But when it comes to Shakka, like MJ said, it is pretty much a done deal right now because, when it comes to having an actual debate, because he will not cough up a worldview. So anything past that right now, it just doesn't make any sense. Now, if he does a video going at Christianity, we'll deal with that. But when it comes to debating, well, no, because he doesn't want to debate. He's made it very clear he refuses to share his worldview. So the story ends there. But Zach, unfortunately, people like him and others have the ear of hundreds and thousands of people. A day doesn't go by in my timeline where I don't see a Brother Polite clip, or Aswa Kwesi clip, or a Dr. Ben clip.
That's
that
old.
People are posting, and I'm talking about Christians.
Yeah.
I'm talking about actual believers who get caught up in this because it sounds so good. The documentary Hidden Colors, right? Something that me and Adam will be addressing shortly.
Yes, sir.
That played a major part. I was sharing with Adam that I remember, when you go downtown Brooklyn and you go to the little kiosks in the malls, they sell the little pendants. Usually you see crosses and Muslim symbols. Once Hidden Colors came out and Erykah Badu, all of a sudden you see nothing but unks and the Eye of Ra pendants. Like the culture changed. Yeah. Seems like overnight when these things came out. It's affecting the culture, it's affecting the people. And it's shaking people's faith in Christianity. So as urban apologists, we are defending the gospel against these very specific doctrines that usually target Black and brown people. Now, when it comes to Shakka, this is pretty much, this is the end. This is the summary. This is the moral of the story with Shakka. We're pretty much done here. But we have to continue dealing with this information because this information gets being disseminated throughout the interwebs. And that's why we're here to make sure that when that happens, people have a video that can refute those things. So,
yeah, man, that's basically where I'm at. Both of you guys, I think, covered it. I will say that I think that in terms of direct engagement between the church and the conscious community and some of these other groups, it's still relatively new. It's still relatively new, and as BK alluded to, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. For me, and I'm just putting it out there. Like what the main motivation for me, to be honest, is not even necessarily, trying to convince somebody like Shakka, or anything like that. I mean, honestly, when people show up on these platforms, they come to talk. They don't really come to listen. I mean, that's typically how it is. I get that. That's just what it is. But for me, I'm being straight up. Like I want to encourage Christians, saying I want Christians to know that we don't have to be scared of these other worldviews. And so I'm going to go up against their best guys whenever I possibly can, every time I possibly can, so that Christians can know, like, dang, you know what? There's answers to this stuff. Because I know how it was for me when I wasn't aware that there were intellectual defenses for Christianity. And it's an uncomfortable feeling. But when you see somebody, you know, just a regular dude like myself, you know, getting up there, you know, defending the biblical worldview, then, you know, what I've experienced is that many times I get emails all the time of Christians who are encouraged by that. And it gives them, you know, the fuel to go out and maybe talk to that family member who they were, you know, previously concerned about and didn't have anything to say, you know, that maybe that person has a different worldview, or maybe go witnessing out in their own neighborhood and so on and so forth. That's what I want to do. The other thing is too, and I'm just, you know, I'm gonna be real with it. I probably have said it. I don't say this all that often on my show, but one thing that I've got a passion for, well, let me put it this way. I think that a lot of people, whether it be a Shakka Ahmose, or I'll just say mostly the people that will be watching a Shakka Ahmose. Here's the reality of it. And this is not to disparage anybody. What I realize is there's a strong number of people who tune into, whether it be Signator TV, Dagger Squad, and, you know, any of those channels. There's a strong number of people who don't really tune in for information. What they're really looking for is affirmation. They're not looking for information. They're looking for affirmation. And they project it as if it's all about information, knowing the truth, and so on and so forth. But really what they're looking for is affirmation. They want justification for this rebellion that they have against the church and against Christianity. I'm saying they left out the church however many years ago, and they want to tune into somebody who's going to make them feel justified for rebelling against Christianity, for rebelling against the gospel. I'm saying that's, and then the other side is they want affirmation from an identity standpoint. So that's why, and I even said in the dialogue, that's why you could literally say anything on those channels, no matter how ludicrous it is, as long as you're banging on Christianity, as long as you're against Christianity and the Bible, you will have subscribers, you will have followers, people will give you likes, they'll give you thumbs up and all that. It doesn't really matter because it's not about information. So the truth of the matter, your truth claims don't really matter as long as you're giving them affirmation for their rebellion against God. That's honestly, you know, many people fit in that category. I can't say everybody because obviously I don't know everybody that tunes in. Now, with that being said, think about that, right? Let's put yourself in the shoes of somebody who used to be in church, grew up hearing about, you know, Christianity, Christ, the Bible, so on and so forth. It's somebody that grew up in the context. And actually, most people in the African context have either grown up in church or been around church or whatever, right? They know something about Christianity. So if you grow up in the African American context, right, and somebody comes along with a meme, YouTube, or whatever, right? Oh, you know, Jesus was based on Horus. You know, Christianity was beaten to the slaves, and that's all there is to it. You know, there were no black people as Christians back in the, you know, before slavery. All this stuff you can encounter that on YouTube, Facebook, or what have you, right? You grew up in church and you encounter something like that, and you're like, man, bump Christianity. I'm out. Peace. I'm out the door, right? And let's say you've been living any kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Now you're not beholden to the moral code that Christianity involves. You just living however you want, right? For let's say 3 or 4 years. Then all of a sudden, Adam Coleman comes along, BK Apologist comes along, Matt Jackson comes along, but the Bodega Ladies, Damon Richardson, Eric Mason, Jerome Gay, you know what I'm saying? You know, all of a sudden the urban apologetics community comes along and says, hey, did you know that Christianity has been in Africa for 2,000 years, but 1,400 of that being before the transatlantic slave trade? Did you know that Christianity, we have evidence, you know, now that Christianity was in West Africa prior to the transatlantic slave trade? Have you ever heard of Cyprian, North African bishop? Have you ever heard of Tertullian, Augustine? Do you know who Prometheus was and the role that he played in regard to Ethiopia? Do you know about the Alexandrian Catechetical School? I'm saying that was the first Christian seminary anywhere on the planet. Did you know about all that? Oh, hey, did you know that there were actually slews of Christian, just African descended freedom fighters who fought against slavery on the basis of their on the basis of their Christian convictions? Did you know that? And then all of a sudden it's like, dang, you missed a spot. You missed a spot, right? You've been rebelling against Christ for the last 3 or 4 years on the basis of a lie. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what Shakka wants to say about zeitgeist, the reality is many people were influenced by the Zeitgeist movie. What Alfredo said with Hidden Colors. And I mentioned this in the dialogue, how you got Hidden Colors, but somehow you don't get around to mentioning the 2,000 years of Christianity on the continent of Africa. Somehow you miss that chunk of history. I don't know how you do that, right? But all of a sudden, Adam Coleman is telling you, then you realize, oh crap, I missed a spot. I left Christianity based on an untruth, and I've been doing what since then? Wait a minute. There really are arguments for God's existence, and specifically the Christian God. Wait a minute,
and it's reasonable.
It's reasonable. All these Christians are judgmental idiots that I've been told by these platforms I've been watching. Like, wait a minute, I missed the spot. So now you've got to contend internally with this idea that there's a very real God who's been watching you this whole time. After you dipped out on the basis of a lie. So now what do you do with that? What I want you to do is repent and believe the gospel. That's what I want you to do. I want you to come to the truth. That's what I want you to do.
Yep.
But there's a very real tug to dig your heels in and say, oh man, I got to block out anything that sounds reasonable from the Christian side, because if they're telling the truth, I might be in trouble. That's real rap. You know what I'm saying? That's real rap. That's what I call the I missed a spot syndrome. And I think that's what we contend against. So as long as we're dealing with that in this community, I feel like we owe it to, really, I think it's just our calling. This is what Christians are called to do, to get out there and make disciples. That's Matthew, 28. That's what we're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I think that this, comes along with that, man, which is why, I took the opportunity to share the biblical worldview. And particularly the gospel when I was in that dialogue last week. We need to be praying for these people, man. This is real rap. I got family members that's in this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure they hate to hear me talk about it, because they don't want to believe that Adam Coleman is right about this kind of stuff. They don't want to believe that there's evidence, but there is. And so I think for many people, this is these recent interactions we've been having with them is the first time they've met real reasonable Christians. You know what I'm saying? I think that's true. I think that's
I think you said a lot of amazing things.
I'm sorry, man. My bad.
No, that's bro. First of all, it's your channel. It's your show. Right. But no, I mean, the fear of acquiescing to anything a Christian says is so real, because this dialogue you had with Shakka, where he blown a gasket and steam was coming from his ears, right? They can't even admit that he was acting immature, because in their minds, if I give an inch to Adam Coleman, that makes me closer to Christianity, which I don't want. Again, right? The affirmation. Right. I need my presuppositions to be reaffirmed at all times. So I am not even allowing myself to even agree with the fact that Adam's actually more mature than Shakka. Like, you could actually say that and still don't believe in Christianity. You could do both. You could say Shakka was immature and Christianity is wrong. You could actually say both.
Yeah, which a lot of people did, right?
Mm-hmm. But for some people, the presuppositions that they have is so serious that if I give anything to the Christian, I'm in trouble. My presuppositions fall. Yeah, so
yeah, that's real rap, man. That's real rap. And I tell you what makes it even worse is when they start realizing that, wait a minute, we thought that we knew Christianity, but they didn't know anything about our worldview. They've been saying that a long time. Yeah, I've heard Jabari, you guys don't really know, Kimmy, like, but we know Christianity. But then all of a sudden, when you realize, like, dang, wait a minute, they do know something about what we believe. You know what I'm saying? Like in that dialogue with Jabari, like, wait a minute, Adam does know what isfet means. And he does understand that I believe in the one. This is Jabari. You know what I'm saying? Like, dag, he correctly framed my worldview, and he's giving me a critique based on what I actually said. Now you've got an even bigger problem. They've got an even bigger problem, because we're not just swinging blindly in the dark. See, here's the thing, like, and I'm showing my hand, but when I was asking those questions of Jabari a couple of weeks ago about and I was bringing out the fact that he believes that the one that's the essentially the Most High. Well, how did I know what questions to ask? Because I know his worldview. You know what I'm saying? It's just like if somebody breaks in your house and they go directly to the safe. How do they go directly to the safe? Because they know where the safe is at. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. How did I know what questions to ask Jabari to bring out his worldview enough so I could then critique it? Because I know what his worldview is. I've watched the man. I've heard him articulate. I saw him say it in person when he was at the debate with Bantu. So it's not true. I'm not saying I know it, inside and out as well. I'm sure there's things that I'm not claiming to be omniscient, but I know enough to give a legitimate critique based on what he actually stands on. You know what I'm saying? That's when it starts getting even more scary for these guys. So look, I'm just here to say, man, like we're not going nowhere, dog. Like this, this is not about, like one person. It's not about me having a grudge against Shakka. I don't have a grudge against Shakka Ahmose. If he called me tomorrow, I don't have no beef with him. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not how Adam Coleman gets down. I really believe that we're staying on the truth, and so there's scores of people that's running with us with the urban apologist community, and we're gonna keep bringing the truth. There's nothing that can be done about it. We're not gonna stop. That's what this is. They had their shot, man. They ran up. How many old people they ran up on 125th, man, who weren't able to, articulate the biblical worldview. That's done with now. That's done. That's done. So anyway, man, that's pretty much. Can
you highlight Dylan Biggs?
Okay.
Can you highlight? That's what it is. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ.
Every.
Yep.
Every last one of them.
That's it right there.
Hey, are y'all cool with taking like maybe 5-6 minutes of questions? Are y'all cool with that, or y'all got the dip?
I'm good. I'm here.
Cool, man. So we're gonna take a couple questions just in case it's something that we didn't cover. Anything we said, people had questions about. Okay, Shotty Mills asked. Did y'all play Shakka's affirmation of moral relativism? We didn't actually play it. Yeah, we did. Yeah, I did actually. I did play it. When I was giving my recap of the different points I thought we could debate. Actually, during that portion of the dialogue, I was basically saying, "Hey, you hold some form of moral relativism," and he affirmed it. He's like, "Oh wait, what'd you say I hold to?" And I repeated it back to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's where I'm at." So he definitely affirmed moral relativism, and it's just funny to me. Maybe we'll still debate it. So I don't know if I want to show my cards there, but I mean, that's not gonna work, man.
Zach said Westbrook to the Lakers. That's a heresy that needs broken down.
Oh man, there you go.
That's funny.
Oh, hot take, man. Here's my hot take. I think Westbrook is fool's gold. I think Westbrook on a team where he's in the starting lineup. I don't think that's going to work. I think if he plays a 6-man role, I think that would be better actually. You know what I'm saying, because he would just terrorize any second team. You know what I'm saying, but I don't think they're going to gel well if he's on the first team. So that's
I agree.
That's what that is. Yeah. Anybody else got any questions? We'll probably take like 2 or 3, and then
I don't know, man. We'll see. I mean, LeBron is on the decline. They need a alpha dog.
Is this his last year of his contract? This next season coming? Is that the last one?
I think LeBron could just go wherever he want to go, man. He do what he wants. You know what I'm saying? He has like the eternal contract, wherever he decides.
He only had like a 3-year, didn't he? Did he sign a 3-year?
I don't know.
That would be that might be the reason why they got him. But anyway.
Yeah, shout out to Phil Fox, man. Shout out to all the I got from Lindsay H. We got a super chat. Definitely appreciate that. Thank y'all. Thank you for sure.
Asar has a question.
Okay, cool. Did I miss it?
I don't know if you highlighted it or not.
Sometimes I still got to get used. It's terrible. I've been doing this for way too long.
Do y'all think Kemetu and Christians can? There you
go. Yeah. Do y'all think? Okay, Kemetu and Christians. Okay. Do y'all think? I'm probably gonna mispronounce it, but do y'all think Kemetu and Christians can work together to improve the community despite our different worldviews? I'm going to give you my perspective. I think that so one of the things that I believe that disciples of Christ should be about is a robust living out of what the Bible describes as justice, right? We ought to pursue justice. Now, I'm not going to get into all that now, but in the context or in the vein of pursuing justice as a believer, I think that we ought to be about repairing our communities. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, I won't even go there, but I think that we ought to be about repairing our communities in whatever possible. I mean, whether it be a food drive, job centers, or whatever, in whatever way we can. I think we should be about that. And I don't think that in those type of endeavors, I mean, yeah, I don't really think you can accomplish them effectively without working with people who are outside the biblical worldview. I mean, I think that's just, there's going to be an intersection. Just like I go to my day-to-day job. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody that's at my job is not a Christian. You know what I'm saying? And I've got to work with them. I think when you're involved in certain things in the public square, then you got to deal with the people that's in the public square. So, in so much as that the case, I think that you can have occasions where, depending on what you're doing, you certainly can work with people of other worldviews, including comedics. I don't see anything that's wrong with that. I do think that whatever we do as Christians, like the scripture says, whatever you do it for the Lord. You know what I mean? And so we ought not to tuck in or compromise Christianity, biblical worldview, or whatever in the course of doing what it is that we do. So if it is the case that working with somebody is going to require us to somehow tuck in Christianity or something like that, then I think that that's a problem. But in principle, I mean, I think that people can work together of different perspectives. I mean, particularly if you're talking about this public square where you're servicing like, natural needs or something like that, food, shelter, economic development, things like that. So, but yeah, that's my view. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think we could work together. I think Luke 16 has a little bit to say, as far as making friends with as much as we can with unbelievers and working with them, and perhaps what Jesus said, making friends with unrighteous mammon, things like that. Yeah, I think we could work together. Like you said in Colossians, whatever we do it as unto the Lord, in as much as possible, be at peace with all men. Our Bible commands us to seek to meet pressing needs. And so, that's what we're seeking to do so that men may glorify our Father in heaven. That's what the church should be doing. Now, we should, I'm not going to be anybody's doormat. You know what I'm saying? But there are pressing needs that need to be met. And I do think that our worldview commands us to put ourselves in positions to work certain things out and to be salt and light. So I don't see anything wrong with working together. As long as, like I said, we're not making ourselves out to be doormats, nor prostituting our worldview out in an unbiblical manner.
Right. No, I agree with both of you guys. The unbeliever can also be compassionate and be loving and kind, right? Now, we know where those things come from, right? We can justify morality. Where, you know what I mean? Everyone can exercise morality, but it's the Christian worldview that justifies that morality. So to work with people who are actually smuggling in the Christian worldview in their lives, sure, let's work with those people. And then, because they're already on our turf in a certain sense, and by building those friendships and those bridges, I mean, I have an agenda, I have an agenda. Like, if I work with these people, eventually I'm going to, by example, help them to come to Christ, because they're already exercising morals that God already put in their heart. Right now, they might do it because they think it's just something they like. We know it's because it's from God, and that's a really great conversation to have with these guys. It's like, all right, since you already have this compassion, let us show you where that compassion comes from. So I think it's a great lead in to those kind of conversations, working with people who might not be believers. So,
yeah, that's good, man. That's good. I see Dr. Knows that I missed the question. I need to. I'm gonna try to see if I can find that. But while I'm doing that, to be honest, that's actually an aspect of why it is that another reason why I think it's profitable to get in these conversations on SciNet or Garfield, some of these other platforms. Because here's the thing, I mean, for the longest time, y'all know how it is, man. I mean, it's like they tolerate everybody except for Christians. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and when it comes to the debates between, like, say, Moors and Comedics and Hebrew Israelites and or I guess Comedics or whoever else, got some black atheists in there. It's almost kind of like, I'm kind of dating myself here, but y'all remember the Wile E. Coyote and the sheepdog back in the day where they would clock in, you know what I'm saying, and they chase each other around and then they clock out for the day, like, all right, Frank, all right, Bill, you know what I mean? To an extent, it's kind of like that, you know what I mean? It's like you see that they'll be at each other's throats. But if a Christian steps in a room, it's like, oh, that's right. You know, they team up, you say, against us or whatever. And, you know, one of the things that I've wanted to do, and I think that it's pretty cool that we're able to do this now, is just be at the table. I'm saying let's let's come to the table. You know, we share our perspective. You know, we kind of get in on these conversations. I think we ought to be a part of those conversations. You know, people have questions about Christianity. They have objections about Christianity. Cool. Let's get in there and mix it up. You know, and let's test their worldviews as well. You know, it's like I said earlier, like these dudes have had like literal decades of just sounding off against Christianity with nobody saying nothing. So okay, cool. Let's come to the table. Let's talk about it. You know,
Zach got a good question.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I get Dr. Nose first,
right, cool,
and then I'll catch up with Zach. Cool. Shout out to Dr. No. He says, what about those who say that Africa may have had early Christians, but they were Europeanized or got Christianity from Europeans? Yeah, you know, that's another one of those things, man. And I think that two things. This is just instructional. I think that what we have to do as apologists, we have to make sure that we're being nuanced in the claims that we make. You know what I'm saying? When people say that, you know, Africa may have had early Christians, but they were Europeanized or got Christianity from Europeans, they're just making a blanket statement. Like they're just, you know, broad brushing all Africans' experiences with respect to Christianity. You know, so on their end, I think it's just too broad. But on our end, we need to make sure that we're being nuanced as well, right? So it is the case that, you know, we have scores of Africans. You know, we can go back to Acts chapter 2, you know what I'm saying? We can go back to, you know, Egypt. You know, I usually kind of walk my way through, but talking about Ethiopia, Nubia, and so on and so forth. We have the progression of Christianity into these various aspects of East Africa through natural means that you would expect anything to travel, you know, of that sort, i.e. through trading routes and through, you know, interactions, you know, in the market and people just kind of moving around and tribes moving and stuff like that. You see Christianity being carried on the backs of, if you will, those type of movements. That's all natural growth for Christianity that you would expect to see of a worldview like that. So I said that to say people throughout over the last 2,000 years have encountered Christianity on the continent of Africa in various different ways. So if somebody says that, you know, oh, it just came into it was because of early Europeans, well, again, I mean, is it the case that, you know, say the Nubians, for example, you know, you have ancient Nubia was a Christianized or heavily Christian influenced nation from like the 4th century, or maybe I said like the 5th century to like the 14th century. Like, was that, you know, influenced by Europeans? Well, no. I mean, you know, that's silly. You know, same thing with you know, just the earliest Christians, obviously, you know, would have been Hebrews, and then we have the Gentiles coming in the mix. I mean, right there, you have a mixture of indigenized Africans and people who were African Gentiles. I mean, from its inception. When we have what I mentioned actually in the Jabari dialogue. We have evidence that somebody like that Mansa Musa, for example, mentioned there being Christians in his kingdom, the kingdom of Mali, back in like the 14th century. This would be like your 1300s. Well, there's no evidence that Europeans had reached that region by that time. So you can infer, given the absence of Europeans at that point, that those Africans must have encountered Christianity, you know, from non-Europeans. You know what I'm saying, however long that had been their tradition. So I just think that, you know, we have to challenge people to. You know, we can take the Greg Kokel approach. You know what I'm saying? Ask them, like, why do you think that? You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, kind of walk them through some of those histories of how different groups encounter Christianity. Y'all want to say anything about that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we have evidence of the Coptic Christians very much fighting to retain their Africanness. You know, we have literature where they were warned not to give up writing in the Coptic script because the Coptic script at that point was so close to the liturgy of the Christian faith that if you give up the Coptic script, they were scared that they would give up the Christian worldview. So they fought to keep this African script. In fact, it's one of the oldest functional African scripts that was preserved by Christians, right? And the Coptic, there was even a movement where they were they wanted to separate from the Arab speaking portions of the Egyptians. And the Coptic Christians were calling themselves the sons of Pharaoh because they wanted to keep their lineage. Like, we're from here, we're indigenous, we're here. You know, the usage of the crux ansata, which looks very similar to the Ankh, right? They would use the Ankh because the Ankh just meant life. And if you're a Coptic Christian, you know that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So how does a Coptic Christian express that ideal? Well, I have a script here. I have this letter, this glyph that just represents life. I'm going to use that. You know, now they did destroy the Temple of Serapis, right? There are certain parts of the culture that they done away with, but parts of the culture that they could use to express Christianity, they preserved. So African Christians stayed African, you know, and they fought to stay African.
Sure.
So, yeah.
MJ,
yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thomas Oden wrote a wonderful book called The African Memory of Mark. And within that book, he seeks to establish that Mark was much responsible for founding the church at Alexandria. So I think that's a good resource that you may want to look into. And that's just more receipts.
That's good. And you know what? One thing I'm gonna say more about this, right, is that all right. So when it comes to the question, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna bring it back up. Where is that at? Because there's something else that could definitely be said here.
Actually, real quick, yes, Bill, we did a whole video dealing with some of the students of Jabari, and it's called "The Shrine Is on Fire." I just did that recently, so Bill, I did a whole thing on that. So.
There you go. So, yeah, I want to say one more thing about this question here. Is, he says, again, what about those who say that Africa may have had early Christians, but they were Europeanized or got Christianity from Europeans? Think about that. The key part there is that, or got Christianity from Europeans, right? Where, it's this sense that, okay, well, y'all got it from the white folk, I'm saying, or it's been whitewashed and y'all just whitewashed with it. That's that sort of thing, right? So, the answers that we gave before, I think, are good, but it's important to understand that there's two sides to that sort of claim or objection, right? Now, I've talked about this before, but broadly speaking, you have two main types of objections that people are going to bring against Christianity. You have what's called the jure objections, and de facto objections. Real quickly, de facto objections are where somebody says there's something factually wrong about Christianity. I'm saying, like, Jesus didn't rise from the dead, Jesus never existed, something like that. The jure objections are making the claim, or a type of objection where they're saying that regardless of the facts, there's something else about Christianity for which we ought to reject it. There's something immoral about it. Or in the case of African Americans, it's this notion of ethnic betrayal, right? If you are, participating in ethnic betrayal by participating in Christianity, then that's grounds for you to not participate in Christianity. So what you're seeing is there's what's called a de jure objection. Okay. So again, when we give the kind of responses about like the history of Christianity in Africa and, the roles that they played, what Matt pointed out, Fredo pointed out, those kinds of things. We're talking about the history of Christianity in Africa that don't revolve around slavery and oppression, things like that. There's this whole robust history of Africans freely and willfully participating in Christianity of their own will, and fighting against oppression and doing so. What we're doing is we're attacking the de jure objection. We're saying that you believe that there's some sort of wedge between the African and Christianity based on certain what you believe to be historical facts, and we're providing other historical facts to demonstrate that that's not necessarily true. Right. That wedge that you believe is there is actually not there if you take the full counsel of history into account. So we're answering that to your objection. Now, with that being said, we can also answer the other side of the question from a logical standpoint and say, that if somebody is rejecting Christianity based upon it supposedly coming from white folks or whatever, then what they're doing is they're committing the genetic fallacy, right? The genetic fallacy is where you either accept or reject a position based upon how somebody came to believe it or based upon how it came to be, right? That's considered to be fallacious, right? So, I've got videos on that, but let's say, for example, if I said that I came to believe that 2 + 2 = 4 because I read it in a Spider-Man comic book, obviously, the source that I got it from, a Spider-Man comic book, is not a valid, piece of information if I want to really learn mathematics. Nevertheless, independent of where I got it from, it is still true that 2 + 2 = 4, right? So that just kind of demonstrates that the source of information doesn't, necessarily dictate that the information itself is invalid. I'm saying you got to go beyond just the source. So even if it were the case, I'm saying, like, which it isn't, but if somebody's claiming that Christianity came from white folks, that says nothing about whether or not Jesus is God, whether or not God exists, whether or not he rose from the dead, so on and so forth. All the things that Christianity is predicated on, they haven't addressed that whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Even if it were true that the first Africans encountered Christianity, on the cotton fields, even if that were the case, which is demonstrably false, as we can show, But even if it were true, it still wouldn't mean that somehow Jesus didn't rise from the dead, Jesus wasn't God, God didn't exist, and so on and so forth, right? So people cannot invalidate Christianity based upon how they believe, their mistaken idea, how they believe Africans came to encounter it. So let me just say this. So on the one hand, on the de jure side, it's just false that Africans came into contact with Christianity exclusively through Europeans. And on the logical side, whether it's true or false, it's still fallacious reasoning. It's the genetic fallacy to reject Christianity on that mistaken notion anyway.
Right. And also, I want to make sure that when I express these things about how they kept their Africanness, what I'm not saying is that Christianity is African, period. I'm not saying that, right? Christianity did not have its origin in Africa. Now, if you want to play with the African Titanic play and that sliver of the Valley Rift in Jerusalem, and that's part, yeah, fine. But it's not what we consider, the geopolitical content of Africa. It did not originate there, right?
Don't you call it the Near East?
Right, exactly. Right. So I just want to make sure people understand that. I'm not saying that, by bringing that up, what we're not doing is blackwashing, right? The answer to whitewashing isn't blackwashing, right? I'm just showing an apologetic for what Adam was talking about when people do bring up the white man's religion argument, right? So, but by no means am I saying that somehow, it's the Christianity is for the African only. The Christianity is for everyone who wants to make Jesus Lord. And if you make Jesus Lord, you're my brother. Zach is a believer. He's my brother. I've never been in the same room with Zach, but that's my brother. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter, how light we are in our color tone. That's my brother. That's it. You know what I mean? So, Bill, you're funny. No one's talking about Pangea, Bill. You're funny. Anyway.
But no, I mean, this is really important stuff, man. And actually, it was funny to me, though. And, both of y'all know where I'm going to this. What's funny is back in the day, it was, Africans, encountered Christianity and slavery, got beat into our ancestors. Then we started showing the receipts like, no, actually, Christianity has been in Africa about 2,000 years, the vast majority of that before the transatlantic slave trade. Then it was, that's East Africa. So yeah, it was in North and East Africa. But
goalposts was moving.
Right, yeah, the goalposts. But we came from West Africa. So what do y'all say about that? Now, shout out to Vince Bantu. Now we have evidence that Christians were in West Africa before the transatlantic slave trade. And now the goalpost is moving again. It's like, but it's not African because it didn't come from African people. It didn't start in Africa. So now that's like the new thing. So the goalposts keep moving. Now here's my thing. Again, ultimately this is where the logical side comes in, because they're going to keep moving the goalposts on the de jure side, right? And that just really shows where people's hearts is at, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, you're still dealing with the logical piece, which is the genetic fallacy. I don't have to demonstrate that Christianity started in Africa in order for Christianity to be true. No matter where it started, right? The question is, does God exist? Was Jesus God? Did Jesus rise from the dead? You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the things that are fundamental to whether Christianity is true or not. And those things are independent of wherever it started geographically, right? So it would be silly for somebody to say, oh, well, I'm just not going to, I'm not going to link up with the God of the universe because he didn't start, this particular religious expression in a region that I, approve of. That's stupid. That's clearly ridiculous to wager eternity on something that on geography. That's silly. You know what I'm saying? Again, so anyway, I think we just have to be careful of the movement of the goalposts. We'll take. I know y'all got to get out of here in a second.
All right, I'm chilling.
Yeah, I'm good.
Asking a question that doesn't pertain to me specifically. This is Zach Matchett. Shout out to him. That's the homie. But more on behalf of people I know. What role can white Christians play in this discussion? Uh-oh. That sound effect. I need that sound. I need that sound effect package. You got them sounded the bomb dropping all that. Man.
Right.
I gotta step my game up, man. You be nice with them sound effects, yo. But no, that's a really good question, man. Y'all want to take a stab at it?
Good, MJ.
Yeah, I mean, be aware of the history of African Americans in this country. Like, let's start there. Compassion is something. Compassion and empathy are some things to have when looking to have conversations with African Americans, because when we do apologetics, all these things, these justice issues, all of them are tied together. The problem of evil comes up, things like that. This is not just some abstract type thing where we sit here and throw out the cosmological argument. All these issues are intertwined. So, you're talking about some serious apologetics here. It's nothing, it's not some, I'm not saying that you're saying this, but it's not some intellectual exercise, but rather this is some real discipleship type stuff. And so you have to come in being sensitive to the history of African Americans in this country, and it's an ugly history, and it's a history that has reverberating effects today. So come in aware of that. Come in with empathy and compassion. Stand firm on the word of God. But I would say come in with the understanding of the history. I think that could be one of your biggest tools. I'm pretty sure my brothers will add something to that.
I think for me, I mean, I'm trying to think of something. The most simplest practical I can give you is having fellowship with one another. Yeah. Outside of Sunday midweek service, Sunday school, actually, shout out to Bodega Lady Dana, because she always brings this up, doing life together. It's important. Let's meet in each other's homes. Let's have some coffee and have some honest dialogue. It was funny when the movie Get Out came out, right? Loved the movie. It was amazing. And it was after church, and I was talking to, some of the black brothers in the church. I go to a multicultural church, and a good friend, Mark Thompson, who was white, he came and wanted to talk about the movie. And me and Mark, we're super nerds, right? We take these deep dives, and we love the MCU. We're big Star Wars nerds. But then he wanted to have this conversation about the movie Get Out. And it was funny because it was the first time I was going to have this conversation about that movie with a quote unquote white person. Right?
Was it quote unquote, or was he actually a white person?
Well, he's well, I mean, because color, well, we call white, right?
Right.
And he just had such a humble spirit because he didn't want to assume that he understood all the intricacies of the plot. He wanted to understand, and that meant so much to me, that he really wanted to know how I saw it from my perspective because of how Black and brown people have been marginalized. Because of that, there is a certain insight we have and a certain experience that we have that he did not have, right? Doesn't make me any better before we get into the whole ethnic Gnosticism nonsense.
Apparently
doesn't make me superior.
Apparently it does make you a nerd, according to Mr. Green.
Well, yeah, that I fully take that, right? So, but we talked, and it was such an amazing conversation, and when quote unquote white people, just let's be family. If we're both following Christ, we're brothers, we're family. Let's do life together. And it's so important because once that happens, these other heresies that we defend against lose steam. Because what they use is the tension between black and white believers. Black and white believers. Yeah. Right? Because if there's a tension between black and white believers, and I'm trying to figure out what it is, they actually have an answer for me. Yeah. Right? The Muslims have an answer for me. The 5%ers have an answer for me. The Hebrews have an answer for me. Well, you know why, brother? Because, you God. They're the devil. That's why. And I'm like, you know what? That kind of makes sense because we don't seem to jive well when we're in midweek service. Maybe there's some, but if, But if we actually have some real friendships and we're hanging out, Adam's kids playing with Zach kids, and we're actually family. When people say that to Adam, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that helps us defend against the Shakkas and the Jabaris. Just us being actual family and having just honest fellowship and doing life together. I mean, there's other stuff that could be talked about, but at the core, let's just spend time together and be who we say we are. We say we're the body of Christ. We say we're family. Let's do that. in real time. So
yeah, that's good. No, that's good, man. I don't have much to add, but I will say this though. Check this out, right? Based on what you were saying, like I think many individuals, churches, whatever, like I think we need to ask the question, like, what is your theology on fellowship? You know what I'm saying? What is your theology on Christian fellowship? Right? Because everything that God institutes has value. Everything that God institutes has some level of efficacy in the life of the believer, right? And based upon what you're saying, BK, is that due to fractures in Christian fellowship, there's now open doors for many people to, boom, dip out of the church and engage in heresies, false worldviews, so on and so forth. I'm saying, why? Maybe not necessarily based on some informational lapse or based on some argument or evidence that they've stumbled across. No, based upon broken fellowship in the church, right? So it really behooves us to correct that. You know what I'm saying? That's an in-house thing. You're saying we got to correct that. Is your theology of Christian fellowship bigger than your commitment to conservatism politically, or political liberalism, or your love for America, or your love for being black or being white or being, whatever? Is your theology on Christian fellowship? I'm saying, have you apprehended what the New Testament says about Christian fellowship to such a degree that it's bigger than these other things that really are, anything compared to what it is that we've been assigned to in this walk that we've been called to in Christ? And if not, if your theology on fellowship is not, could it be that you're interacting with people in such a way that you're driving people towards, just right out the church? I'm saying that's a real question. We're up on 2 hours, man. So I'm gonna get out of here. I gotta, I'm gonna just let this question ride. This is pretty easy. Question for me, when Shakka recovers from his meltdown due to your argument from his over talking forcible silence, are you open to dialoguing with him again? Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not, this is gonna sound bad, but listen, man, I'm a mental health professional. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm sorry.
No, that came out wrong. No, that's
oh man,
they came out wrong.
My bad, bro. I'm sorry.
No, y'all started laughing. I was actually about to.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm a mental health professional. What I was about to say is, I've been cussed out. I can't tell you how many times. Like, it doesn't faze me. Like, when people cuss me out, yell at me, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's funny because people ask me, like, how do you stay so calm? I mean, part of it is like, I get cussed out all the time. Like, it's not, I really do. Like, with my job, like, over the last, I've been a social worker for like 16 years now. You know what I'm saying? I've been cussed out and called more names and whatever. Like, so that kind of stuff doesn't faze me. You know what I'm saying? So the way that he was acting, being disrespectful, I don't hold any grudge against him. You know what I'm saying? I would have a dialogue with him tomorrow if he cared to do so. It's not that serious. You know what I mean? That's just where I'm at with it. Yeah. So anyway, hey man, I thought we did pretty good. 2 hours. That's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. I think we were banking on an hour and a half. You know what I mean? We spilled over a little bit, but I know BK's laughing already. He know what it is when you get on my channel. We ain't do 4, man. Back in the day, bro, we was.
Oh, back in the day, we used to do marathons, bro.
Yo, we're
so much better. We're so much better now.
We was wilding, bro.
For real.
So yeah, man. But yeah, I want to, hey, what y'all got coming up, man? Share with the people what y'all got going on. Make sure you let them know about your channels and stuff like that.
Go for it.
Okay,
well, if I got any mods in the chat, can y'all put these guys' links in the chat so people can peep it?
Normally on Fridays, we'll have a freestyle Friday, but I'm gonna be stepping out of town. Next week we'll be picking back up. I got something real good for y'all next week. Dr. Joel McDermott is gonna be hanging out with us on Friday of next week with me and Apologists in Detroit on the Freestyle Friday. Following that day, I'm gonna have Brandon Cleaver and Bradley Mason, Mr. Also a Carpenter. They're gonna be coming. We're gonna be talking about CRT and trying to understand what it is from primary sources and things like that. Not saying that you got to adopt it, but at least steel man what you disagree with. So we're gonna try to steel man and understand it and go from there. That's what I got coming up. I'm probably going to go for a little bit of violence ending out the year. I'm going to be doing a series on Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. John D. Jackson, and we're going to, we have some slides, some quotes, some book pages, and things like that. And I think that that should carry me throughout the year. Oh, possibly might have something with Adam Coleman looking at Black atheism.
Oh, that's gonna happen. Yeah, you can tell me. Yeah, that's happening. Yeah, we're gonna do that.
So that's what I got.
Right. Shotty says she would put the links, but she's not a mod. So you know what that means, right?
Oh, dang. All right, my bad. Shots fired.
Basically. As for me, August 19th, I'll have a show, some good brothers talking about disciples working to abolish the new Jim Crow and how Christians are being interactive and on the front lines and just being image bearers and reintroducing the intrinsic value of the human being with the gospel in those areas of life, right? And even before that, though, on August 12th, me and Adam Coleman will be doing a refutation of Hidden Colors 2, the spiritual warfare segment. I'm very much looking forward to that, to do that with Adam. I feel like it's long overdue. That documentary has done a lot of hurt to the Black community. And it's the documentary that really put the conscious community almost mainstream. Umar Johnson became Umar Johnson from these documentaries. Yeah. You know what I mean? So all those weird Hotep memes that you guys see, a lot of this comes from this segment that we will be addressing. And we really need everybody's support to watch this. It took me 3 days of just breaking stuff down. Like I couldn't do anything else. It's like I had to focus just on that show. Because it's just so much.
Guys, I know you got like 800 slides for that, Jay.
It's not so much. It's just really just getting information and really thinking things through. And it's only a 14-minute clip that we're addressing. But there's so much. I mean, Umar is in that clip. KRS-One, Professor Kaba, Professor Smalls, just a whole bunch of people within this 14-minute clip. And it did so much. Like I said, I know Christians who have referenced these documentaries as if this is scholarly work, So it's really, really, really important that you guys, check it out. Again, it's going to be August 12th, a refutation of Hidden Colors 2. So you're going to look out for that.
Hey, man, you know what's funny about that, actually? I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. I might do a video on it. Did you, it's actually that video right there, that the Hidden Colors, that segment right there, after watching that, that's when it was a turning point for me getting into apologetics. That's when I knew that we are right in the biblical worldview. That video actually gave me confidence in the biblical worldview. I'm gonna tell you why, because there's a segment, I believe is Dr. Anthony Browder, and he makes this argument about the letter J is only 500 years old. So how could there be a Jesus? When I heard somebody that's on their roster as supposed scholars make that argument, I said, "Oh no, we good." I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like I may not know everything, but if that's the best they got, we straight. I'm good.
But you see that piece,
Shakespeare wrote the Bible.
Oh yeah, Shakespeare. Yeah, but that's where all these memes come from. That segment, guys.
That's where it comes from. Right. That's where it comes from. I knew I was good after that. But that's real rap. I actually remember watching it and be like, "Oh yeah, that's the best they got, man." If this is their scholars, if that's what they bring into the table, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. But anyway, actually somebody did ask a question earlier about what book that MJ mentioned. Now you gotta realize MJ has as many books as BK has slides. You know what I'm saying? Basically. Like for every slide that BK Apologist creates, MJ Jackson buys a book. But you gotta one up in trouble. But yeah, you mentioned how Africa shaped the Christian mind by Thomas Oden. So that's what this is for the person who was asking about it. How Africa shaped the Christian mind by Thomas Oden. So that's a reference. Really good book. Really good book. That's some really good material in it, man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. Yes, I guess we're good. As far as I'm concerned, man, it's I got a lot of things brewing. Y'all be praying for me. I got some ministry opportunities coming up, you know, some public speaking type stuff, a lot of things going on in the background. But as far as this channel, I'm just about to dig in, man. I mean, I got some time slated out just to dig into, do a lot of critiques of some stuff that we're seeing in the conscious community and black atheists, just breaking down stuff, continuing to teach. And I'm going to start doing some more things on just what's going on out here socially as well. I think that it's important. I've said this before, and I think I just need to lean into it. But you know, doing apologetics, it's not just about like mic drop moments. I'm saying just trying to refute people and do arguments, that kind of stuff. You know, it's really important that we understand that apologetics, a large part of it has to do with coming alongside people and help them to think well, you know, and pointing towards the truth. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we have to address social issues, and we have to address issues of everyday life, lifestyle, things like that. From a biblical perspective, from a biblical worldview, because people have real questions. You know, you have this group, you know, that is referred to in the literature, research as the Nones, Nones. And this is like the fastest growing group amongst African Americans and just in general, you know, people who don't subscribe to any particular religious framework, but you're just, you know, spiritual in some sense, or agnostic or atheist. And, you know, which I think what you're finding among these people is that they have real questions about life, reality, so on and so forth. And so I want to provide answers to those questions. You know, we can't give the cosmological argument for everything. You know, it's important to answer questions like, how shall we live? You know what I mean? Like, and how do we apply ethics and things like that to real stuff that's going on in real time? You know what I mean? So we're going to be doing some of that, man. And so just kind of, you know, stay on the lookout. But for now, man, I appreciate everybody coming out, man. I hope that you learned something from this. At the end of the day, we play the tape. Y'all can play it back. You know what I mean? And see, you know, compare for yourselves what, you know, Shakka claimed about it. But at the end of the day, you saw clearly I was not running from the Jesus Horus debate. I clearly said that my aim was to have a debate where both people have skin in the game and bring their worldview 50-50 and the best arguments and evidence win. I clearly said that. I clearly did not claim that people who you just necessarily were unchristians or not Christians just because they left the church. And just, you know, and we saw that even though he claimed to had this inside track on Christianity, he made elementary simple mistakes that demonstrated that A, he doesn't really understand how worldviews work, and B, he doesn't understand the fundamentals of Christianity because he misdefined faith and a bunch of other things. So the only thing I think you have left on the table as to why he had the meltdown that he had is that he got exposed for not being able to articulate and defend his worldview. And I really think
Strati, I mean, we can get into it now, but she wants to know if you watched the videos that he did post your discussion.
Yeah, you know, actually, I didn't finish them all. I think he did two. The first one, I just skipped through like the first. It's like 45 minutes, and most of it was just, I don't know what he was talking about. You know, it wasn't even necessarily directly to me. Like the last 8 minutes, you know, he mentioned. So I mean, I wasn't really much to see there. I think the other one was like 2 hours and change, and I watched about maybe about 60% of it, and he was just combing through comments from the original dialogue and just primarily focusing on the ones that fit his narrative about what happened about me supposedly running. But anybody who watches it will see that clearly I wasn't running, just like I just said. And so I slept real good that night. I thought I didn't lose any sleep whatsoever. I was actually encouraged that things went as well for me as they did. And I think that anybody who's honest, you know what I'm saying, and sincere and watched it for what it was, will see that the man had a serious meltdown of his own accord. That was all him. I mean, he you know, was struggling out there, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, but you know, that being said, y'all pray for the brother, man. I mean, look, I don't have nothing against the man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he needs to be saved too, you know what I mean? And so I think that just is what it is. But you know, yeah. Amen. Well, y'all know what it is, man. Love God, love people, take care of the things that God blesses you with, and I'll see y'all one more again next time.
Peace.
That's where you would. I got to get my music going, man. Actually, I do have music. I got to get that going, man. Love y'all, man. Peace.